now we will study the bacteria. So we already have studied that the bacteria are prokaryotic unicellular organisms. They are the prokaryotic unicellular organisms, and we are concerned about those bacteria which causes infections in the human body. So we already know that the prokaryotes, they have a cell wall. They have a cell wall, and the plants also, they have a cell wall. The plant cell wall is made up of cellulose, we already know that. But the bacterial cell wall is characteristic in having peptidoglycan. You can see, one second, where is the mouse? Here it is. So you can see the peptidoglycan. The peptidoglycan, the cell wall of bacteria is made up of a substance called as peptidoglycan, which is, glycan means glucose and peptido means the amino acids. So this thick brick structure is basically representing the peptidoglycan. See, if this is a bacteria, let us say this is a bacteria, then the bacterial cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. And below the cell wall there is cell membrane, right? The cell membrane, the usual cell membrane. Then the bacterial classification, how the bacteria are classified. Now bacteria are classified in many ways, but since we are studying the medicine, since we are studying the medical science, we have to classify the bacteria based on the medicine, based on the way we treat, or based on the treatment. So anyways, let us look at the morphology, how the bacteria look like. So on the basis of morphology, the bacteria are classified into cocci and bacilli. Cocci means circular. So you can see coccus means circulus. So coccus is one, cocci is multiple. Diplococci, tetrad. Streptococci means in chains they are organized. Staphylococci means this is one bacteria. So they are stacked. They are stacked in bunches. So they are called as staphylococci. Staphylo means bunches and cocci means circular. So streptococci means linear chains. Staphylococci means stacked in groups. Then we have bacilli. Bacilli are cylinder shaped. See, they are cylinder shaped. They are not round. They are elongated, cylinder shaped. So bacilli, Coccobacillus means they are little round but little cylinder also. Then Diplobacilli, right? Streptobacilli, right? They are in chains. Then we have some other structures like spirals. So they are helical. They are spiral. We have other structures like Corynebacteriums and Vibro. They are like comma shaped. The main classification we are concerned of bacteria is gram positive and gram negative, and this is very important. This is something which we should know. If a medical student does not know bacterial, the gram positive and gram negative, then probably he doesn't know the basics. So these are the basics. So now in order to know the gram positive and gram negative, we should learn the structural differences of the various bacteria. That means the differences in the cell wall of various bacteria. So let us have a look. So based on the differences in the cell wall, the bacteria are classified into gram positive bacteria, gram negative bacteria, and bacteria which are neither gram positive or gram negative, right? They are considered as rest. So bacteria which do not take color on gram state. Now we will study about this gram positive and gram negative in detail. Now what is gram positive bacteria? In fact, what are the examples of gram positive bacteria? We have already studied, the second year BMS students have already studied Streptococci and Staphylococci. Those are gram positive. And gram negatives examples are E. coli, Salmonella and Shigella. So let us study what is the difference in their cell wall. So this plus here, the plus here is gram positive and the negative here is gram negative. So as I have already told you, the prokaryotic cell, that is the bacteria, is having a cell wall which is made up of peptidoglycan. So now in gram positive bacteria, the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. In gram-negative bacteria also, the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan, but it is not as thick as that of gram-positive. So, gram-negative have thin peptidoglycan, the cell wall, and outside the cell wall there is a lipid layer, bilipid layer. You can see this bilipid layer, right? This bilipid layer is very important. So this bilipid layer, it is called as bilipid outer membrane, and there is inner membrane also. The cell membrane is inside to the cell wall. So outer membrane, see this outer membrane, then the cell wall, and then the inner membrane. Right? This is the structure of gram-negative bacteria. That the cell wall is in between the double cell membrane. Now this is very important because the peptidoglycan here is small, it is less, it is thin. So let us see what happens when we stain them. So the gram positive and gram negative and the bacteria which do not take any color on gram stain are regarded as rest. This broader classification is based on the gram staining. Now what is gram staining? This gram stain was developed by Hans Christian Gram, which stains basically he put some dye over the bacteria and observed those bacteria under the microscopes, and that dye and that procedure is called as gram stain. So now this gram positive bacteria have thick layer of peptidoglycan in their cell wall, right? So what the thick layer, the peptidoglycan layer is responsible for staining, so to acquire that stain, whereas the gram negative bacteria have thin layer, thin cell wall, so they cannot stain, right? As simple as that. So they were considered as gram negative. So here you can see that this is thick layer of peptidoglycan, right? So this thick layer of peptidoglycan is stained, whereas the thin layer of peptidoglycan is not as much stained as that of gram positive. So the color appearance after staining in these bacteria are red, whereas the color staining in gram positive bacteria is blue. So basically, if you want to know more about this gram stain and gram positive and gram negative, I can tell you how it is being done. It is very simple method. It is not very hi-fi. So this gram staining, what we do, we take bacteria and we fix them over a slide, and we put a primary dye, the crystal violet dye, over them. By putting that crystal violet dye, the polysaccharides in the cell wall of the bacteria, they take the violet color, and all the bacteria, they become purplish. Both gram positive and gram negative, they both becomes purplish. Now what we do, we put some more iodine so that dye does not washes off, or that sticks to those peptidoglycans. So we put some iodine and we put some heat to them, right? And we heat that solution, and after that we put those bacteria, we put that slide in an alcohol solution. So alcohol, what does it do? It acts as a decolorizer, right? It decolorizes the crystal violet. But because this gram positive bacteria have thick peptidoglycan layer, they retain the color, they don't lose their color, whereas the gram negative, they loses their color and they become colorless. But that is not all. What we do, we put another dye which is now red in color, the carbol fuchsin or safranin, which are jet red in color. You can say they are red dyes. So we put these red dyes, and what these red dye will do, the colorless gram negative bacteria, they will make them pink. Whereas the gram positive bacteria will not become pink, they will stay blue. So after staining, if the slide, we observe it under a microscope, this slide, if the slide gives us blue color, right? If the slide is seen like this, we say that the person is infected with gram positive bacteria. And if the slide is like red, we say it is gram negative, right? So that is how we differentiate, we broadly classify the bacteria into two groups, gram positive and gram negative. But later there were the discovery of few other bacteria which were neither stained blue which were neither stained red, but they were bacteria. So we put them in other category. So what is this other category? So bacteria which do not take color on gram stain, we can learn them by mnemonics. C. rascals microscopically, they lack color, right? So they don't die under gram negative stain, so they lack color. So C. rascals microscopically lack color. S stands for spirochetes, right? We will study about the spirochetes. Then rascals, R stands for rickettasias, right? Then M stands for mycobacterias, mycobacterias as in tuberculosis, and mycoplasmas also. L stands for Legionella species, and C stands for Chlamydia species, right? So these bacteria, they have peculiar features, right? Their cell walls are peculiar that they do not take the gram stain. They don't stain under gram stain. Now, apart from gram stain, we have another stain called as acid fast stain. Acid fast stain. So this acid fast bacteria are typically the mycobacteria, and these mycobacteria have a specific feature in them. What is that specific feature? These mycobacteria are like gram negative bacteria, but the outer membrane, right? You remember there were two membranes, one was outer membrane and one was inner membrane, and in between the outer membrane and inner membrane there was cell wall. So the outer membrane of mycobacteria are rich in mycolic acids. These mycolic acids they gives a waxy appearance, or they are like a wax over the cell. So this mycolic acid in the outer membrane prevents the bacteria to take gram stain, right? But for staining these mycobacteria, we have another useful stain called as acid fast stain. So this was discovered by two scientists. One was Dr. Zeil, and another was Dr. Nelson. So with their name, it is called as Zeil-Nielsen stain. The acid fast bacteria, the mycobacteria, the acid fast bacteria are mycobacteria. They take another stain which is called as Zeil-Nielsen stain. So after gram stain, we are talking about Zeil-Nielsen stain. So this Zeil-Nielsen stain for mycobacteria, the theory is almost similar as that of the theory is the practical is same. So what we do in Zeil-Nielsen stain, in spite of the crystal violet, we directly put carbol fuchsin, the red stain, right? See, we directly put the red stain over the microscope. We heat it to fix these bacteria, and then we decolorize it by putting it in alcohol, and after that we put methylene blue or malachite green, any of them, methylene blue for 30 seconds, and after that we observe it under the microscope. And the acid fast bacteria, that is the mycobacteria, the bacteria which causes tuberculosis, right? So the acid fast bacteria, they appear red, right? Consider it as red, right? So they appear red, whereas non-acid fast bacteria, they appear as blue. So if these red threads which are seen here, if we can see them under a microscope, we say that the mycobacteria is positive. So this is one of the tests to diagnose, one of the very cheap and very easily available tests to diagnose tuberculosis, right? The acid fast test by Zeil-Nielsen stain, right? Or acid fast stain also, it is called as acid fast stain, right? Or the mycobacteria are also called as acid fast mycobacteria. Then we already know that we can culture the bacteria and we can perform some experiments on them, and we can determine which species they are, or to which antibiotics they are resistant to, or which antibiotics they are sensitive to, and we can infuse according antibiotics to the patients. So now we know that we are going to study the bacteria, the different types of bacteria. See students, it is very important for you to know the bacteria. You know why? Because Ayurveda has not explained in detail about the bacteria. This is something which the modern research have found. And these bacteria are on an OPD basis, they are very easy to control by infusing or by giving antibiotics. But if you don't know bacteria, then how you are going to give the antibiotics? So I hope you understand the severity or the depth or the importance of the topic. That if you don't know the bacteria, why and how you are going to give the antibiotics, right? How you are going to give the antibiotics, and the next question is why. If you don't know it, why you will give antibiotics, right? We all have been taking antibiotics, but if you want to give antibiotics to a patient, you should know what does an antibiotic do, right? What is a bacteria, or what are the different types of bacteria? Otherwise, it is not good. So now we have classified the bacteria on the basis of um, treatment. We are classifying the bacteria into gram positive, gram negative, and others, right? Others we remember by the mnemonic of I'll change a little bit of mnemonic, excuse me, right? C rascals microscopically lack color. C means, S stands for spirochetes, R for rickettsia, M for mycobacteria and mycoplasma, L for legionella, and C for chlamydia. So gram positive bacteria. So we already know that these gram positive bacteria under gram stain, they stain as blue or purple, whatever, right? Bluish or purplish. So these gram positive bacteria, we are not going to study all of them. We are going to study majority of the main bacteria which causes most of the diseases in humans. So these are pneumococcal infections, staphylococcal infections, streptococcal infections, enterococcal, diphtheria, corynebacterial infections, clostridial infections. We have already studied some of them, the pneumococcal, staphylococcal, streptococcal in respiratory classes. So starting with the old pneumococcal infection. So you know pneumococcal, right? Pneumococcal, right? So this pneumococcal pneumonia, which is now called as streptococcus pneumonia, which were earlier called as pneumococcus pneumonia, right? It is the main cause of community-based pneumonia, right? Community-acquired pneumonia. So it causes pneumonia, and this streptococcus pneumonia is community-acquired pneumonia, right? It also causes otitis media, that is the infection of the ear, and it also causes the infections in the blood and infections in the meningitis, infections in the meninges of the brain and spinal cord, right? So first is streptococcus pneumonia, and you also know, we also know that it is why it is called as streptococcus. Strepto means in chains, and coccus means rounded structure. So this bacteria, it is a round bacteria and it lives in chains, right? See, it is a rounded and it lives in chains. Then we have staphylococcal infections. Now again, staphylococcal infections, we have studied staphylococcal infections in pneumonia, right? Right, Staphylococcus aureus, the species is aureus. So this staphylococcus infection, we have already studied it in respiratory tract infections, in ventilator associated or hospital acquired nosocomial pneumonias, right? It also causes empyema, right? The pus in the lungs, right? Then we have the staphylococcal infections are majorly known to cause infections over the skin, right? Skin or soft tissue. For example, this, right? This carbuncle, or this is a carbuncle basically, right? Cellulitis, fruncle. Fruncle is infection of the many hair follicles, right? Folliculitis is infection of one hair follicle, right? Abscess, you can call this as this could be an abscess also, right? If the abscess is big, we call it as carbuncle, right? So carbuncle, cellulitis, impetigo, again infection of the skin, mastitis, right? Then ear infections. So all these infections, the skin and soft tissue infections, are majorly caused by Staphylococcus aureus. Other than them, there are the infections of the surgical wound, right? The musculoskeletal infections, the infections in the joints, right? Like septic arthritis, when the joints develops sepsis, osteomyelitis, infection of the bone, right? Then we have infection, bacteremia, infection of the blood, right, which causes sepsis, septic shock, right? Infection of the heart, endocarditis, right? It also causes food poisoning. It also causes necrosis of the fascia, right, leading to permanent disabilities, necrotizing fasciitis, right? So staphylococcal infections, apart from pneumonia, they also causes most commonly skin infections. They are very common. Then we have third, streptococcal infections. So streptococcal, again we have studied streptococcal infections, streptococcal, staphylococcal in pneumonia. So they causes pneumonia. The most common is group A streptococcus, also called as gas, right? The species is pyogenes, right? Pyogenes means it will form the pus. So the pharyngitis, you can see the pharyngitis here, right? See the pharyngitis, the tonsils have exudates over them. So it is a, these are exudates, right? The pus. So these exudates, the pustular exudates, right? These are pustular exudates. So these are pharyngitis. Pharyngitis is infection of the pharynx, right? Pharyngitis is mostly caused by viruses, but bacteria, especially streptococcal bacteria, is the most important cause for bacterial pharyngitis, right? So pharyngitis, impetigo, right, infection of the skin, especially over the mouth region. Pneumonia, right, we have already studied pneumonia in caused by streptococcus pneumonia, right? Then we have cellulitis, acute rheumatic fever, right? We will study about this later. Post streptococcal glomerular nephritis, right? Post streptococcal glomerular nephritis, erysipelas, again infection of the skin. Then we have group B streptococcus, group C, G, group D, and non-groupable, right? So they causes various infections of the body. So streptococcal infections are very important bacterial infections. Then we have, after staphylococcal and streptococcal, we have enterococcal. Entero means gut. So mostly they will infect the gut. See, Enterococcus facialis, right? So they will infect the gut and they will cause the diarrhea. They will cause the other infections, right? Like urinary tract infections, bacterial endocarditis, meningitis, right? They are the most important cause. These enterococcal are most important cause for UTIs, urinary tract infections, right? Urinary tract infections, enterococcal infections. Then we have clostridial infections. The most important is the Clostridium tetani, the tetanus infections. So these clostridial infections, they are caused by the Clostridium species. For example, this Clostridium tetani. For example, Clostridium tetani. See this opisthotonus condition. So tetanus, right, for which we take the anti-tetanus serum, the anti-tetanus injections we take. So this, if we don't take that, we might get infected with Clostridium tetani, right, which is this Clostridium tetani. This bacteria is found in soil or in water. So if ever you get an open wound, the first thing that the doctor do is give an tetanus injection to prevent this clostridial infection, Clostridium, which is caused by Clostridium tetani, which is called as tetanus, right? So if somebody is suffering from tetanus, they might go into a posture like this. They might go into a fixed posture like this, right? So we have other species like Clostridium perfringens, Clostridium botulinum, right? Very important, Clostridium botulinum, right? The improperly sterilized foods are the main source for Clostridium botulinum, which causes food poisoning, right? So this Clostridium, they produces two types of toxins, enterotoxins and neurotoxins. Enterotoxins means which generally produces gastroenteritis, right? Which produces gastroenteritis. So they are enteric, the toxins to the enteric system, whereas neurotoxins are toxins to the nervous system. Then we have diphtheria. So now what is diphtheria? Diphtheria is a disease which is caused by Corynebacterium diphtheriae, right? Corynebacterium diphtheria, it generally affects the children, And what happens in children? There is a pseudomembrane, a membrane formation, a pseudomembrane formation in the pharynx, and it can cause choking to the patient, or it causes severe trouble to the pharynx. The pharynx becomes inflamed, and the children becomes dyspneic and cough. So diphtheria is a um, um, very dangerous disease for the children, and that is why diphtheria vaccine is mandatory for the children at the age of 1.5 year, and then 2.5 years, and then third dose at 3.5 years. Right, so that completes your gram-positive bacteria. So once again, let us summarize. The gram-positive bacteria are so called because they stain positively in a gram stain, and they stain in a purplish bluish color. These gram-positive bacteria have peculiarity in their cell wall by having thick cell wall which is composed of peptidoglycans, right? One more point you can remember in gram-positive bacteria is these gram-positive bacteria, they produces exotoxins, right? There are two types of toxins produced by the bacteria. One is exotoxins, one is endotoxins. The gram-positive bacteria produces exotoxins, whereas gram-negative bacteria produces endotoxins, right? Always remember, gram-negative bacteria, they stain red, right? They stain red and they are dangerous. See, gram positive and gram negative, and they are dangerous because they produces this endotoxins. So these endotoxins, they are very dangerous, and they can produce a global sepsis. They can produce global sepsis, and the person might go into septic shock and death, which is called as endotoxic syndrome, right? The endotoxic disease. These bacteria, this group of bacteria, they might, if they proliferate too much in the body, they might lead to endotoxic shock. The person might go into septic shock and death might follow, right? So we'll study about gram-negative bacteria in the next lecture.